he was typing the book. He wanted to finish. And I have Eminence, may I ask you for a blessing and sorry for everything. Maybe I did something wrong during the 14 years. And he said, no, you were so good to me. You were always so good. And after he said, please take me in your heart to Poland and keep me in your heart and please pray for me. And I said, I will, Eminence. When I went to Poland, I went straight for the retreat, 8 full days retreat. And there I was praying, and I don't know what was happening, but all the time Cardinal was in my mind. Yes, and I was really praying, and that the Lord will help him, that the Lord will take him safely and to keep him in his heart. And the last day, this was on Friday evening, this was on April 13th, Mother Provincial said, Sister, do you want to go to Mother House for the special Mass, ex Jehovah, in our Mother House? And I said, yes, I will. And we went, and one sister, the novice mistress, she was running and she said, Sister, Cardinal Maharski, Francis Maharski, he said, I have to say a Mass for Cardinal George because just now he is dying. And during the Holy Mass, I had the feeling he is dying. And it was the time. And Sister called to the provincial, Mother Provincial, and she said, just now Cardinal died. And I was praying so hard for him. And I came, and this was the day before the funeral. And I was in the church, the cathedral, and still I saw him in the casket. Yes, and this was hard for me, but we know he is praying for us, and we had the intercessor in heaven.
That an oblate of Mary Immaculate would ever strive to make an oblation, an offering, a gift, a sacrifice of his life. And that this oblation would be deeply grounded within, grounded in hope in the one by whose sacrifice alone we are saved. But what did Cardinal George offer to God, and through God, to us? What did he give away? He offered a life joined to the cross of Christ.
What God, I think the grace that God gave him was to see how he was appreciated, even by those people who would kind of stand up against him or kind of be in opposition to him. But they appreciated his strong leadership, his insightfulness, his ability to commit himself to the community and to spend his life for that community.
I was also at his funeral, my mother, and that was a very special time. We loved him, and we miss him, and we thank God for him.
It was beautiful, his funeral. Everybody loved him. People were standing, they were saluting him, they were crying, they were praying. It was absolutely a beautiful sight to see how they received him.
We went by the school where he went as a youngster, and all of the school kids were out there, nuns and teachers and priests, because it was linked to a parish, obviously. They were all lined up in front of the school. Any time that our bus went by, we had, of course, police escort all the way to the cemetery. Whenever we went by, though, a police department, police station, or a fire department, all of the officers, the policemen, the firemen, were outside and they were just saluting the Cardinal. It was very, very moving. He was loved, he was respected.
And what struck me the most was the way in which they were reverencing his mortal remains. It was like going to Rome and seeing perhaps the veneration of saints' relics. They were touching handkerchiefs and rosaries to his body. Why did that man matter so much? Why were people lining the Kennedy as he was brought to the cemetery, lining the streets as they passed his home parish of St. Paschal? People were in tears. Why were they doing that? This man left an impact on them. This little curious man with a limp, who many people took as too serious and too gruff. Not at all. He was a pastor. He loved everybody with the heart of a pastor, with the heart of Jesus Christ. The people that were lining the streets, the people that were crying at his death, the people that were reverencing his body, they knew who Francis George was. They were touched by his life, and they were never to be the same.
You know, I think that many people might have stories about things that they felt that they went to him, they asked him to pray for him, and then when he was alive. And since then, I don't know what experiences people have had. I know that I certainly pray to him and think that he has influence. But before he even died, I know personally, a few weeks before he died, my daughter called and said she was expecting a baby. And so I told him, I said, now, you know, she's not gonna tell the world yet, but will you pray for her? And I knew it was getting towards the end. And I said, will you keep her in your prayers? And they were very close friends. He was very fond of her and she adored him. I said, now while I'm gone, don't forget to pray for Emily. You know, remember I told you she's pregnant. And he said, Colleen, I already told you. I already took care of that. It's all taken care of. She's fine and the baby's fine. It's all taken care of. I said, okay. I was just leaving and I said, okay, I'm gonna go, bye. And I got out in the hall. I couldn't talk. I got out in the hall. I thought, what on earth does that mean? He didn't say things frivolously. And I was really blown away because it was very intent. 6 to 9 months later, I was talking with the nuncio, and I was telling the story, you know, and I said, what do you think? What does it mean? He said, well, it's Colleen, he's a saint. And I said, yes, I know, but this is before he died.
When you see him living the life and how he lived it and how he accepted the cross, I would say that's why I do pray to him. I really thought here's a man who suffered all his life. He gave everything he had to the church as far as, you know, whatever abilities he had, whatever talents he had, it was all for the church. I don't know that he ever thought of himself as, you know, being, well, I'm the Cardinal of Chicago. In my mind, I do pray to him. We have his picture in the sacristy there. And whenever I'm getting vested for Mass, I say, Francis, take care of me, you know. I think he's a saint.
If there was ever an American going to be elected Pope, it would have been Cardinal George.